Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. My Sharingan is blackened, automatic upgrade system. Chapter 41. Boy, what did you say? The bandit boss looked at Chi-Tien with disdain. It may be what Sakishin said just now, and all three of them laughed. In this street for so long, no one has ever talked to them like this. No one resisted. Whenever someone wants to resist, there is only one result, and that is to die. I really didn't expect that you will continue to be domineering, and you are also very stupid. No, to be precise, it's deaf and stupid. Chi-Tien raised his head and looked at the bandit boss in front of him, and said with a smile. Facing such a child, all three of them could not believe that this was what he could say. Although Yu Hihong didn't know the strength of these three people, it was very relieved to see Sakishin now. For these people, Yu Hihong also wanted to teach them a good lesson. It's just that my own strength doesn't allow it, otherwise I would have done it long ago. My boy, you asked for it. You don't even inquire about it. What will happen to those who resist us? The second child among the three walked forward slowly, shaking his burly body. Obviously, the three of them are very proud of their record. It seems to be showing off his record. I don't want to inquire about your affairs. It seems that it has become a foregone conclusion now. You don't even want to take my stuff, and if you want to teach me a lesson, that's impossible. Sakishin held out his middle finger, and pointed at them. The burly bodies of the three trembled slightly, and the blue veins on their foreheads were gradually exposed. It looks like the battle is about to begin. I don't know if Sakishin can handle it. In order to avoid getting hurt, Yu Hihong retreated to the side again. After all, it is easy to be implicated in this kind of place. Boy, it's very good. Let me show you how the three of us buy things. I wanted to ask you to transfer some money, but it seems that I want to give you some color. After the bandit boss finished speaking, he clenched his hands into fists and exerted force instantly. The entire body swelled twice as much as before, and all the clothes on his body burst open. Wow, exploding clothes. This ability is really awesome. I didn't expect my body to be twice as big as before. It seems to be interesting. Sakishin felt that things were getting more and more interesting. Of the three, only their boss is like this, and the other two have no intention of doing anything. In this case, I can only teach you a good lesson for others. I can't let you do this often. As soon as the words fell, Chi-Tien instantly opened the first door of the 8th Dunjia. A faint breath surrounded him. Two people look at each other. An attack could be launched at any time. Ah, come on. Chi-Tien took the lead and rushed directly in front of the bandit boss. He clenched his hands into fists and started a rain-like fist attack. The first door still has some effect, and its power is much greater than before. Sakishin at least felt that way. But after attacking for a while, he looked up at the enemy and found that nothing happened. Strange, is this guy an indestructible body? The body is not that hard. Sakishin was a little curious. Did you just tickle me? I thought you were so powerful, but in the end you were still a whimsical kid. The bandit boss patted his body like a gorilla. Although his body is very large, his movement speed is very fast. In a blink of an eye, he rushed to Sakishin, and then stretched out his fist and punched him hard. Not good. Kishin was shocked, and the wind driven by the whole set could be felt on his entire face. The arms are quickly crossed together to block. Boom. Although the blocking was successful, it still flew out and hit the wall fiercely. This power is too great. It's just a bull. Chi-Tien slowly stood up, and then wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. It is too simple to think of these enemies. Now it seems that if you don't show some real strength, it will be difficult to win. It seems that you don't just rely on appearance to frighten others. Then let you take a good look. The second door, open. Kishin opened the second door very smoothly, and the breath around his body was stronger than before, but he still felt that this was not enough. The third door, open. A few seconds later, Sakishin successfully opened the third door again. The breath around the body is abnormally violent, and the whole body has reached a brand new realm. Comfortable. It's a really good feeling. Sakita felt the relaxed change in his body and clenched his fists. Both eyes stared at the front tightly. Both legs exerted strength in an instant, and rushed up all at once. I saw that some cracks had appeared in the place where the legs had exerted force just now. This is the first time the bandit boss has seen such a thing. Although I don't know what the situation is, I can still feel the danger. Wanted to run away, but there was no other way. Sake Tien had already appeared in front of him, and his fist was already approaching his face. Go to me. Kishin hit his face with his fist, doubling his strength again. Boom. The face of the bandit boss had already started to twist, and he retreated unconsciously. With a punch, the bandit boss was sent flying. Although this person is very large, Sake Tien in the 3-door mode is no joke. Chi Tien fell to the ground, looked at the bandit boss who flew out, and pouted. Oh, I'm getting a little stronger. As soon as the words fell, the bandit boss fell to the ground with a bang, and turned over several times in a row. The scene just now is almost once in a century. A child can fly an adult several times his size with one punch. No one would believe it if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Yu Hahong, who was standing by the side watching the battle, was already not calm. He kept staring at Sakishin with a very surprised expression. She couldn't believe that this was her deskmate. Although he knew that Sake Tien was very powerful before this, but he was not so powerful. Your eldest brother won't be able to stand up for a while. Then it's your turn. Hurry up and go up together. Chi Tien looked at the remaining 2 bandits, a little impatient. The 2 younger brothers watched as their elder brother fell unconscious on the ground. All extremely angry. They opened their mouths wide and started roaring. Then he clenched his hands into fists, and the veins on his forehead popped out. Some changes gradually took place on the back. Is this something inherited from the ancestors? Why do all 3 brothers know it? Chi Tien felt that something was wrong, and he didn't dare to be careless at this moment. The brothers eventually managed to double in size, with all their clothes stretched out. It's difficult. Kishin clicked his tongue, and then formed a seal with both hands, instantly summoning 2 shadow clones. Create a clone in front of the enemy. Doesn't it obviously tell the enemy where the main body is? Is Chi Tien stupid? How can you create a clone in front of the enemy? Isn't this a dead end? Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin's operation very well. The 2 gangsters looked at Kishin and you instantly felt very good. This kid feels a little silly. I don't understand. Then stop guessing. Go together. Kishin knew what the 2 brothers were thinking, and then ordered his shadow clone to rush forward together. After the 2 shadow clones started to move, everyone around them were stunned. Ordinary clones can't act alone at all, and they just have no way to attack in fantasy. There is still a big difference between the 2. Yu Hahong looked surprised. In school, such advanced ninjutsu could not be learned at all. Sakiden, there are really too many secrets. Since that assessment, Kurenai Yuhi has noticed that Sakiden is very different from before. But can't tell. This is also where it feels the weirdest. Second brother, what should I do now? It doesn't matter, there is definitely nothing wrong with attacking the one in the middle. After the 2 brothers discussed it, they finally decided to use the safest method. The 2 shadow clones had already rushed in front of them. Bang bang bang. The avatar and the 2 brothers began to wrestle together. Although they are just shadow clones, they are all quite powerful. I didn't expect to use the avatar for the first time to give you like this. And these 2 are stronger than their boss. This is really unexpected. Sakishin looked at the 4 people who were fighting and smiled. But immediately after the battle, something changed. The shadow clone gradually couldn't keep up with the rhythm, and after a few rounds of fighting, it instantly turned into a white mist and disappeared in place. This is the end. It seems that I still have to leave the office. Sake Tien patted his hands, then stared straight ahead. The 2 brothers also turned their gazes to Sakiden. The 6 eyes faced each other, and the battle was imminent. Swish. The 3 of them rushed towards each other at the same time, all at very fast speeds. Before that, Kishin had wondered whether Sandman could hold on. But still wanted to give it a try. Go to me. Chi Tien rushed in front of the 2 of them, took advantage of the gap and grabbed the arm of the second child, and then made a big circle around his body. Quack. With a very crisp sound, the second child's arm broke. It's really thick. This arm is really different from ordinary people. Chi Tien evacuated to a safe area, and then looked at the 2 brothers. The 2 hugged each other, and the arm of the second child is now useless. There is no way to participate in the battle at all. Second brother, Leave it to me next. I will definitely make that kid pay the price. Then I will avenge you and my brother. The third child looked at the second child and said nervously. But the second child's expression seemed to be much more dignified, and the other healthy hand held the third child's shoulder tightly. Third, are you sure you want to do this? Second brother, there is no other way, don't worry. In the end, the third child pulled down the hand of the second child with all his strength, then turned around and walked towards Kishin. What are these two brothers planning? Do they have any whole cards? It really shouldn't be. Judging from their appearance, they are bandits at best. Even if there is, it is passed down from generation to generation in their family. Chi Tian looked at the third child blankly. The third child looked at Kishin. One was very angry, his eyes seemed to be staring at prey. Like a very hungry beast. Good guy, the eyes in this moment are really scary. It seems that this person is the whole card among them. Kishin felt that things were getting more and more interesting, but at the same time he became vigilant. After a while, the third child's body began to change. Faint white smoke began to gradually emerge from the body, and the muscles on the body also began to gradually shrink. The most obvious place is that his muscles have shrunk to normal human size. What operation, bone shrinking skill? It's definitely not that simple. Kishin was a little flustered, and this was the first time he had seen such a scene. The transformation of the third child's body is still not over. After becoming the size of a normal person, the white smoke from his body finally stopped. Immediately afterwards, his body muscles began to squirm slowly. It's like having a life of its own, wriggling desperately. What the hell, what is this going to do? Sake Tien was a little horrible. Kurenai Yuhi, who was watching the battle, hurriedly covered her eyes with her hands. As a girl, how could she endure such a scene? After the third child's muscles squirmed for dozens of seconds, he finally regained his composure. And on his body, the muscle color has become blood red. Is this their last whole card? Red, does this thing also need to burn their lives? After seeing such a color, Sakishin instantly thought of Baman Dunjia. Obviously, this isn't a thing, but Sakita doesn't feel like he has much food for speculation. Since this is the case, then I can't fall behind. 8 doors, the 4th door, open. Sake Tien concentrated and opened his 4th door at once. The green aura around the body became more violent, and the surface of the body was much redder than before. The last time he opened the 4th door, Kishin found that it could only last for a short period of time. Later, I gradually understood the problems inside. Now the 4th door can be opened at will, regardless of other things. It feels really good. Sake Tien felt his hair had been floating upwards. And the surrounding green breath can be seen very clearly. Then he raised his head and stared straight ahead. The 4 eyes met, and the murderous intent followed. Kurenai Yuhi also noticed the changes in Sakiden at the same time, and never thought that Sakiden could grow to this point at this time. Up, Kishin didn't wait for the enemy to make a move, and rushed out first. He also wants to deal with the enemy in the shortest possible time. That saves you time, but the state of the third child at this time made Kishin somewhat unexpected. Chi Tien rushed forward, and every punch he swung was successfully dodged. This surprised Sakido a little. The third child's avoidance posture has always been to avoid by tilting his head. It seemed extremely easy. What's the situation? Sakishin was shocked. The teacher punched out with lightning speed, hitting Sakiden in the abdomen. Boom! With a muffled sound, Chi Tien flew into the sky smoothly. Oh my god, I'm in heaven. What's going on? My physical fitness is obviously perfect, but I can still feel the pain. Chi Tien was in the air, with one eye open and one eye closed, very curious in his heart. This is the first time I have encountered such a thing. The third child is now acting like a heartless robot. No one has anything but one thing to do and defeat Sakiden. Kishin simply moved his muscles and bones in the air, and then disappeared in the air in an instant. Came to the ground. Force me. If that's the case, then I'm welcome. Open. After finishing speaking, Kishin's eyes flashed red, and the 3 hooks were linked together in a triangle, with 3 black bars interspersed in them. Kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. Kurenai Yuhi covered her mouth in surprise after seeing Sakiden's eyes. You must know that Chi Tien is just a 7 or 8-year-old child now. To be able to open the kaleidoscope Sharingan, you must go through a special process. The death of both Chi Tian's parents may also be due to excessive longing and the smooth opening. But starting at this age is really a bit against the sky. Long farewell. Kishin looked at the brand new things in front of him and smiled. Looking up, he saw the third child walking towards him. But then, through Sharingan, I saw something that I was interested in. It was found that all the chakras in this person's body were evenly distributed, but some of them were all gathered in the heart. From this, Kishin concluded that the heart is the biggest weakness of this person. I didn't expect to use my own secret technique to deal with me. But these don't work in front of me at all. Kishin looked at the third child who was walking towards him step by step, and smiled. After all, in front of Sharingan, these are illusory existences. Totally unnecessary. It turns out that this is their secret. I really didn't expect it. It's similar to the Bamindunjia, but compared to the Bamindunjia, they are weak. Kishin looked at the third child with a very disdainful smile. The third child is now like a zombie, totally irrational. And he has only one goal, to kill Sakiden. Kishin didn't wait any longer, exerted strength on his legs, and rushed out in an instant. The wind carried lifted the ground up. Like a green lightning bolt, it ran towards the third child. The two meet and start fighting. Punch and punch. Driving the wind, making a whirring sound. Seeing such a fighting scene, Yu Hahong and the bandit's second child exclaimed that it was enjoyable. It was also the best fight they had seen in a long time. After a period of fighting, Sake Tien gradually gained the upper hand. Every attack has an 80% chance of being able to hit. And the third child was gradually exhausted under the fierce attack. The chakra in the body begins to dissipate. The chakra at the heart begins to spread around the body. Very well, it's now. Kishin aimed at the heart of the third child, and swung this punch forcefully. Boom! One punch sent the third child flying again. This punch was very powerful, without retaining any strength at all. Chi Tian has been looking for the most vulnerable time of the third child just now, and this is just now. Nice. Chi Tian stood in place, looked at the third child who flew out, and made a victory gesture. The third child who fell on the ground moved a few times, and then the red color faded from his body. The body will eventually become a dry state. The third one. The bandit's second child looked at his younger brother, staggered and ran over, ignoring the pain. One embraced the third child who was on the ground and started to cry bitterly. Why are you so stupid? Knowing that this will cause great harm to your body, you still want to do this. Too stupid. The second child shook the third child's body, in great pain. Sakita shook his head. If I knew this earlier, why bother in the first place? This is all your retribution. Kishin ignored them, and directly cancelled Sharingan and Bamindunjia. Walked towards the place where the setting sun is red. Although they have not been wiped out, but after experiencing this time, they will not be able to get out of bed for at least 10 days and a half months. The reason why Kishin didn't kill them all was also because they didn't do anything harmful. Just teach them a lesson this time. Hong, let's go, it's getting late, let's go eat. Kishin came to Yuhi Hong's side and looked at her and said. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sake Tien's appearance, and nodded without thinking. The current Kurenai Yuhi still stays in the scene where Sake Tien just fought. The surrounding villagers watching the battle became happy when they saw that the three bandits were all defeated. He suffered too much humiliation before, but today, because of Kishin, he relieved his great hatred. Under the admiration of the villagers, Kishin and Yuhi Hong walked out of the street with things. I'm very happy today. May I treat you to ramen? Sake Tien turned to look at Kurenai Yuhi and smiled. Alright, let's go eat ramen then. Hearing this proposal, Yuhi Hong was speechless, but he still agreed to Sake Tien. Shiha Hong had too many questions in her heart, but she knew that now was not the time to ask these questions. Besides, Sakiden didn't want to say it, and Kurenai Yuhi wouldn't take the initiative to ask. After arriving at the ramen restaurant, the two ordered a bowl of ramen each. Hong, I know you have many questions, but I can't tell you now. When the time is right, I will tell you everything you want to know. Sitting on the seat, Chi Tian whispered. This statement, Sake Tien also thought for a long time before deciding. After all, my own situation is difficult to explain. It's hard to make sense without thinking about it. What? Why are you telling me this all of a sudden? Don't think I'm curious, but now that you've said that, I can only agree. Kurenai Yuhi pouted, talking cutely. Sake Tien looked at Kurenai Yuhi's appearance and smiled. Looking at Kurenai Yuhi, Sake Tien smiled. The girl in front of him at this time was the first person Kishin met when he came to this world. It is also the first person who often chats together. Chi Tien also feels very lucky to have such a confidant. Okay, let's not talk about these, let's hurry up and eat. Kishin watched Uncle Yil put the ramen in front of them and said. Red Yuhi nodded. After the two thanked each other politely, dinner time began. During the meal, neither of them said anything, and sat there very quietly eating ramen. Chi Tien thought about what happened today while eating, and found that he could get some black coins. It's also something to celebrate. After eating, I came to the street. Qianshan, your golden egg didn't sell today, did it? Shi Hahong drank a drink and sat on a chair by the side of the road. Yeah, but that's not a problem. Anyway, those things don't have a shelf life. Big deal, wait until tomorrow to sell it. Maybe because of today's incident, my reputation will be opened. Ha ha. Sakishin smiled like an optimist at this time. Sunset also smiled. The two sat here and chatted for a long time. Qian Tian, do you want to go out in a few days? There is really nothing to do at home, why not go out and see the outside world? Yuhi blushed, as if a little shy. Why do you think so suddenly? Aren't your parents at home? I don't care. After all, I'm alone. It would be great if I could go out for a walk. Kishin looked at Yuhi Hong with a blank face. Shi Hong shook her head. My parents are not at home. They went out to carry out their mission yesterday. I don't know when they will come back. Only then did Sake Tien understand what was going on. So it is. But yesterday I went out to have a look. It is forbidden to go out at the entrance of our village, and then I will find a way to make a little money. What do you think? Sake Tien told Yuhi Hong what happened yesterday. Yuhi Hong looked disappointed. It was obvious that she didn't want to hear these assumptions. I really don't understand. Then we have no other way. I really want to go out and have a look. Maybe we can meet many new things. Kurenai Yuhi looked up at the sky, and her tone of voice was a little disappointed when she spoke. Sakishin didn't know. He went home directly after being refused to go out. As for where he could go out, he didn't know. Let's take a look first. Maybe there are other ways to get out. It's not too late for us to go out then. Anyway, just go home before the new year. I don't want to spend the new year outside. Sake Tien turned to look at Kurenai Yuhi, making a victory gesture. Puff. Yuhi Hong didn't expect that she would be amused by this gesture. Sometimes I really don't understand you. It's really funny to make such a gesture suddenly. Then let's make an agreement like this. In just 1 or 2 days, let's find a way to get out. Then let's go to the outside world to have a look. It may be more interesting to call other people at that time. Shi Hong covered her mouth and raised her eyebrows. Oh, is there anyone else besides the two of us? I thought. Chi Tien frowned slightly, as if he felt that this matter was premeditated. And I was not discussed, but notified directly. This plot made Sake Tien never think of it. Why do you think? Of course it's not just the two of us. If it's just the two of us, what's the point? It's interesting if there are many people. And it's relatively safe. I don't know what's going on in your head. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sake Tien and slapped him on the shoulder lightly. Chi Tien also had no choice but to confess. After all, the two are friends now. There is no other possibility at all. Other people may know. Lin, Obito, Asma. Including you and me, there are 5 people in total. I believe it will be very interesting then. Yuhi Hong said happily with a smile on her face. Sakishin pouted. It was all people he knew and had dealt with. There is no way now. It would be even more boring if you go out by yourself. It's better to go out with a few of them, and what kind of sparks can be created when a few of them are together, Kishin also wants to see it very much. If that's the case, there's nothing I can do about it. I will tell you when I find the exit, and then we will set off. But you have to go home before the Chinese New Year. Sake Tien rubbed his shoulders and looked at Kurenai Yuhi. Seeing that Sake Tien agreed, Yuhi Hong nodded happily. Then it's settled. I'll tell them the news tomorrow. I'm sure they'll be very happy too. Yuhi Hong jumped up suddenly, and was very happy. Seeing the lowly like Kurenai Yuhi, Chi could have such a good mood, and smiled softly. After the two of them decided on something, it was very late looking at the time. They walked back slowly in the direction of their respective homes. Now there is an agreement. Their journey is about to begin. I really don't know what kind of things can be encountered outside. I hope it can improve my strength. Suddenly it occurred to me that there is still one thing I haven't done. I must figure out the attributes of chakra tomorrow. Chi walked to the door and suddenly remembered this matter. Clap your hands, regretting that you didn't do it sooner. We must figure it out tomorrow, but where are we going to do it? This question confused Sakatan again. For such a long time, Sakatan always forgot. Walking back and forth at the gate, and thinking about the solution to this matter. In the middle of the night, if a person walks around alone, if other people see it, they will probably die of fright. 10 minutes later, Kishin suddenly had an idea. Go to Asma tomorrow, he must have a solution. After all, he is the son of a 3-generation-old man. Kishin suddenly laughed, feeling that he was too smart. And he almost forgot about this little brother just now. In this way, Kishin can always know his chakra attributes. Knowing this will also help me a lot. The next day, Kishin opened his eyes and turned to look out the window. I'm going, what's the situation? I saw a vast expanse of whiteness outside, and I couldn't see anything. When he was surprised, Chi put on his clothes and quickly came to the yard. This fog is so thick. I can't see my 5 fingers when I stretch out my hands, it's so easy to describe now. Chi touched his hands and looked around curiously. At this time, the temperature was extremely low, and the fog shrouded the entire Konoha. It's so cold, let's go back first. Wait for a while, I'm afraid it will become a popsicle. While speaking, Chi curled up and quickly returned to the bedroom, hiding under the covers. Covering the whole body with a quilt gave him some warmth. This ghost weather is too unusual. The Chinese New Year is coming soon, so let it be cold, but there is heavy fog. It's really weird. Chi hid under the blanket and shivered, looked at the weather outside, and sighed. As for this ghostly weather, who knows when it will end? Could it be that today's plan has been ruined like this? No, I absolutely won't allow it. Sakita stood up suddenly. I found thicker clothes in my closet and changed into them. The weather was changing so fast that Sakita didn't expect it to happen. The clothes I wore yesterday were relatively thin, but today I changed into cotton clothes at once. Comfortable. It's finally warmer this way. I really didn't expect it to become like this after one night, it's really ridiculous. It's possible to return to normal by noon. Let's go then. Kishin tidied up the quilt, then came to the kitchen and started cooking for himself. After all, no matter what happens, you can't starve yourself. Draw a dragon on the left. Oh, it's blurred. It's really bad, I have to do it again. If it follows this form, sooner or later, everything in the house will be destroyed by me. Sakatian accidentally mushed the food he made. After confirming that he couldn't eat it, Kishin still dumped all the food in the trash can with some distress. Then prepare again. This time he did not continue to sing, and devoted himself wholeheartedly to cooking. Finally, I didn't expect to cook a meal, and I was almost exhausted. It's great to be rich. If you are rich, you don't have to eat at home. Chi put the food he made on the table, and then muttered while watching the food. After muttering for a while, I started to eat. Although the taste is not as good as the outside, but at least it is clean. Don't worry about anything. After eating, Sakishin was still the same. Get everything ready and check the weather outside. The sun is leaking. Very well, now we can finally go out. Sakatian was in a good mood with a smile on his face. Going back to the bedroom again, she found a coat and put it on, locked the door and went out. Now the fog is still there and has not completely dissipated. But at least it's much better than it was this morning. I don't know, what kind of weather will it be tomorrow? I hope it will be better. After finishing these things today, I will find a way to get out of the village. Chi put his hands in his pockets, and walked forward with a breath in his mouth. Soon he came to the gate of the 3rd generation of Hokage. I don't know if this kid is at home. Boom boom boom. Kishin knocked on the door with the idea of giving it a try. After 1 minute, there was finally a response inside. Coming. As soon as Kishin heard the voice, he knew it was Asma. Looks like I'm lucky today. Everything can go well. Who is it? Brother Tien. How could it be you? I thought it was the milkman. After opening the door of the house, Asma saw Sakiden, and was a little surprised for a moment. Why do you sound like you don't welcome me? Chi Tien frowned slightly, and then whispered. No, how could it be? What's the matter? Come in quickly. Asma instantly became as docile as a little lamb. You don't need to go in. I just want to trouble you with something. I don't know if you can help me. Kishin looked at Asma and asked again with the mentality of giving it a try. What's the matter? As long as it can be done, I am bound to do it. Asma patted her chest, then looked at Sakishin with a smile. It's the way it is. Kishin compiled what he thought into a paragraph, and then told him. That's it. So I want to trouble you to get me a chakra test paper. In the end, Sake Tien told the ultimate purpose of coming here today. At the same time, he also kept a close eye on the changes in Asma. So it is. No problem, this matter is on me. It just so happens that I have some at home, and I'll get them for you now. Why don't you come in first and wait a minute? Asma deliberately flashed a place. Sakita shook his head hastily. Forget it, no need. I'll be waiting for you here, go quickly. Wait a minute, I have other things to do. Sake Tien directly refused. Asma didn't say anything more, just turned around and walked into her house, and started searching. Kishin stood here looking at the fog above the street. Finding him is indeed a very correct choice. Wait a minute and finally I can know my chakra attributes. I really have some expectations, and I don't know if I have 4 zodiac signs or 5 zodiac signs. Sake Tien has already started to have a picture in his mind. The corners of the mouth also gradually rose, revealing a smile. I remember that Naruto is of the wind attribute, and he has been making balls since then. If I have 5 zodiac signs, then I will definitely walk sideways. Chi Tien looked up at the sky and suddenly laughed. I have already imagined the future picture in my mind, but no matter what, there are still some things that are not real. Time passed by minute. The fog is also slowly dissipating. Brother Tien, I'm really sorry. I searched many places and only found these 2. I really don't know where my dad put everything. Asma ran to the door in a hurry. Chi Tien looked at the 2 small notes in Asma's hand, then nodded. It's okay, I was going to ask you to find me one. These 2 are really enough for me. Thank you very much. Kishin looked at Asma very happily. But what makes him happy is these 2 test papers. After all, he will soon be able to know his chakra attributes. Asma nodded, and then gave Sakita the chakra test paper in his hand. Brother Tien, you don't have to be so polite with me. If you have anything to say in the future, just tell me. If I can help you, I will definitely help you. Asma looked at Sakishin with a very innocent smile. Sakishin looked at Asma and smiled. The child's nature is quite good. Sometimes it's a tiger, but there must be a lot of benefits in being friends with him. Kishin looked at Asma and thought silently in his heart. Okay, if you have any troubles in the future, you can just call me. I will definitely help you settle everything. Sake Tien said something to him very politely, and then walked out with the chakra test paper in his hand. Walking on the road, looking at the chakra test paper in his hand, Chi Tien was extremely excited. Hurry up and go home and test it out. Really looking forward to the results. Chi Tien ran back home with his fastest speed. After returning to the living room, I sat on the sofa and looked at the test paper in my hand. Put down one, and hold the remaining one in your hand. Let's start. Sake Tien rubbed the palms of his hands, and began to concentrate. Chakra is injected into the paper bit by bit. Moments later something changed. At first it was split in half, and then burned to ashes. It's gone. Just 2. Chi Tien looked at the ball of ashes in his hand in surprise. Brows raised and lowered. The 2 are very different from what I expected. Is this gone? It's too insignificant. It's a little different from what I imagined. Kishin sighed softly. The result was doomed. There is no way to change that. Forget it. Since this is the case, we can only improve these 2 attributes to the extreme. You can do whatever you want that way. Kishin clenched his fists tightly, making up his mind. Although he didn't have the result he wanted, Sakishin didn't give up at all. Now that you have embarked on this road, run forward without hesitation. Ding, Feng Dan was finally discovered by the host, but he is still very wronged and has been automatically blackened. Ding, the blackening is successful, and the wind escape beast wave palm has been learned, plus the wind escape wind cut. Grade, perfect grade. The system's voice echoed in Qi Tian's mind, and then disappeared after a while. This time, Qi Tian was not too surprised. Not because the rewards aren't good enough, but because you've gotten used to it. Feng Dan, what are you talking about? In this way, I have a new trick. 2. Somehow lucky. But this is good, at least it can attack from a distance. Qi Tian touched his palm, very happy. Now that one goal has been accomplished, one already knows one's chakra attributes. The next thing will be much easier. And it doesn't require any training. I don't know, when will the Bamindunjia be upgraded again? I hope the 8th gate will not be injured. Qi Tian turned his head and looked out the window, with some expectations in his heart. But it's useless to be anxious now, and Kishin can see it. This thing cannot be forced, it still needs an opportunity. The thing to do now is to find an exit. The only place with hope is Haoshan. Hurry up and go. Find it early and leave earlier. Kishin stood up and took a small backpack with some weapons in it. Then he walked out of the house and onto the street. The sun is shining, but the temperature is still very cold. It's really unwise to choose to travel at this time. But there is only this one chance. Maybe there will be no more in the future. Qi Tian suddenly felt a little depressed. Thinking of the many wars that will happen in the future, Sakadin's mind is full of images of corpses. Blood flowed like a river, I couldn't even imagine it. War is really bad. There is no war without death. I wish time passed a little slower now. That way you can face reality later. Kishin knew that this was impossible. After all, he did not have this ability. The reason why I have this idea is nothing more than trying to escape reality. But the reality is often very cruel. Forget it, don't think so much. Let's hurry up. Go out with them this time, what interesting things will happen again? Sake Tian looked forward to it. Accompanied by the imagination in his mind, he soon came to Haoshan. I found a very quiet place and put down my small backpack. The rare quietness, Qi Tian also wants to enjoy the good time now. But right now, suddenly a person appeared in front of him. Red, it's such a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet you here. Sake days feel very incredible. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin with surprise. The two looked at each other, then both laughed. It seems that we really have a tacit understanding. I can't stay at home anymore. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to find the exit so diligently. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sake Tian with great interest. Sakita nodded. Yeah, it's really boring to stay at home these days. If it wasn't for the bad weather today, I would have come here in the morning to find an exit. Sakadin picked up his backpack again. The two decided to find the exit together, which would save a lot of time. The two walked together in the forest like this, and soon came to the farthest point. I didn't expect that there would be guardrails here. It seems that Hokage-sama set it up, and it is really well intentioned. But the fence can't stop us. Kishin looked at the 2-meter-high guardrail in front of him and smiled. According to their strength, it is easy to climb over the guardrail. After all, Sake Tian wanted to try, but was stopped by Yuhihong. Don't worry, let's see if there are any patrolling personnel around. If they find out, it will be over. Yuhihong looked at both sides very vigilantly. Oh, how did I forget this? Nice to have you. Qi Tian scratched his head and smiled awkwardly but politely. Oh, I thought you could do everything well. Now it seems that if I'm not here, you will only come hard. Yuhihong shook her head helplessly. After observing, the two determined that there were no patrolling personnel. Quickly moved away from the guardrail and came to the outside of Muya village. It's that easy. It's that refreshing. The outside is really different from the inside of the village. It feels like the air is much fresher. Sakadin took a deep breath of fresh air, then laughed. You are not stupid, are you? It's only 1 meter away, will the air change? I feel like you are stupid in the village. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin and felt very incredible. Qi Tian smiled, and then the two made a sign for this place that only they could understand. Okay, so we can start tomorrow. Suddenly I feel very excited. Have you figured out where to go? Qi Tian patted the soil on his hand, and then asked. Shi Hong shook her head. I don't know, and I haven't been out before. Why don't you ask a few of them? Maybe they will have some fun places to go. Sakishin was speechless. Want to travel, but no destination. It's just like a joke, and it's too unreliable. That's the only way. I really don't understand you people. You clearly want to go out, but you have no destination. Is it just going out for a stroll? Sake Tian was a little disappointed, but he didn't show it so obviously. Can this be my fault? I have no experience in this area. If you say that, I will be very unhappy. Yu Hihong turned around angrily and walked towards the village. Qi Tian was speechless, and he wasn't surprised at all about girls. He still packed his things and rushed up. Red, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean that just now. I don't have experience either, so we're all the same. Let's go ask a few of them, shall we? Kishin walked beside Yu Hihong, coaxing in a low voice. After hearing these words, Yu Hihong still pouted her mouth. It seems that it is not so easy to coax. Women are always like this after all. Kishin stood there with a helpless expression on his face. The two walked all the way to the village like this, without saying anything during the process. Kishin himself didn't know what to say to make her forgive himself. Resigning to fate is the only way Qi Tian can think of at the moment. Now that things have developed to this point, why not try to follow the will of God? Red, okay, don't be angry. Let's ask them for clarification before deciding where to go. I only have the two of us to say that we can't decide this matter. Qi Tian thought about it carefully, and followed. If he thinks that this matter is not taken with him, then what he did before will be a big loss. Yu Hihong stopped her footsteps, and then stood where she was. Big teary eyes stared straight at Qi Tian. HMPH, I'll forgive you this time. If there is a next time, it will not be so easy. We'll set off tomorrow, and now let's find a few of them to gather. I told them before, presumably, they already have a place to go. Yu Hihong spoke weakly after a few seconds. Qi Tian nodded happily. He was still very satisfied with the result. After the two happily decided, they gathered all three of them together to discuss the future. Sure enough, as they expected, it only took some time to sort out all these things. Now that the people are all here, there is a destination for where to go. Qi Tian can finally breathe a sigh of relief, already very happy in his heart. Finally, I can go out and relax. After several people separated, they returned home and began to pack their things. The agreed time is 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, when there are fewer people. If there are few people, you can easily get out, nor will it be seen by others. And this time, they all played in plain clothes, so that others would not be suspicious. After Kishin returned home, he brought 2 pieces of clothes and put some small weapons in his backpack. That's it, I almost forgot, it's rich. This thing must be brought. After speaking, he went to the corner and took out the box where he hid the money. Then took out a third and put it in the backpack. That's perfect, I hope this journey can be completed smoothly. Qi Tian came to the living room and sat on the sofa. Clear your mind and start meditating. The next day, Chi got up before dawn to clean up the house. I don't know when I can come back when I go out this time. I hope the strength can become stronger when I go home next time. And tidy up the house before you leave. At least it will make you look more comfortable. Qi Tian picked up the cleaning tool and stood in the living room, talking to himself in a low voice. At this moment, Kishin felt that he was quite clean. After packing up, he walked out of the house with the things he had prepared yesterday. Double-check that the gate is locked. After confirming, I walked on the street with confidence and went to the place where they gathered. It's still a while before the appointed time, why don't you go have breakfast first? If you are hungry, your stomach must be very uncomfortable. Qi Tian touched his stomach, and then decided to have breakfast first. Is it a breakfast point that opens the door, ask for some simple food, and then sit down and start eating? His eyes were on the road while eating. Looking at all kinds of passers-by, he was just a passer-by in a daze. As a child, although he is very strong, he still does not have such a high reputation. What's the use of being strong? Of course it's for equipment. Ha ha, Qi Tian was suddenly amused by himself. After eating the food in his hands, he picked up the equipment again and walked towards the assembly point. When I first came here, I saw that the two girls had been waiting here for a long time. Oh, I didn't expect you to come so early. It seems that I can't wait to go out. Chi Tian walked up to them and said hello to both of them. You're not bad, you came quite early. Are those two still sleeping late? Sometimes I really want to beat them up. This kind of very happy thing can make us unhappy. Kurenai Yuhi clenched her fists, and gestured to Sakadin a few times. Kishin looked at these two lily-like girls and smiled softly. Sometimes it feels good to have girls around me. After all, there are some things that boys can't do. Then let's wait for them, it's still early anyway. I took a general look when I came here, and it seems that no one came out today. We're pretty safe by comparison. Sake Tian looked around, then whispered to them. Red Yuhi nodded. Don't worry, the place I recommend this time will definitely make you very satisfied. I only went there once when I was young. But I believe that place will not change much. I hope so. Yuan Yellen looked at the two of them and described the appearance of that place carefully. Hearing her description, Kishin could instantly feel that it was a paradise. And very beautiful, just the type he likes. Yu Hahong had already put her hands together, and her mind was full of imagining that scene. Girls are very real and simple, there are delicious and fun things, and money can buy things. They're here. I didn't expect these two boys to come here together. It's beyond my expectations. When Chi Tian was chatting with them, he suddenly noticed that there were two people of the same age as them in the distance. They all hold a small backpack in their hands, and they can probably guess who they are. When they come over, we must teach them a good meal. Let us wait for them for so long in such a cold day. And they were still in bed just now, it's really shameless. Wait a minute, neither of you stop me. Yu Hahong was very angry at this time, and the two people who watched Gao and the others were about to roll up their sleeves. Chi Tian and Yuan Yellen also looked at each other expressing their helplessness. The two of them are very clear about Yu Hahong's temper. I'm sorry everyone kept you waiting. I couldn't sleep last night, that's why I was late this morning. As an apology, this is breakfast for the three of you. After Asma came to them, the first thing she did was to admit her mistake. Looking at the breakfast in his hand, the three of Chi Tian nodded lightly and said nothing more. But Soil is different, he didn't have anything in his hand, and he didn't want to apologize. Obito, tell me what's going on with you. If it is said that I am not satisfied, then congratulations, you are finished. Kurenai Yuhi stretched out her fist and looked at Obito and said viciously. Obito didn't waver at all, standing where he was, with a look of disdain on his face. Okay, I really underestimated you, and I don't know if you underestimated my fist or not. As soon as the words fell, Yu Hahong jumped up and punched Obito hard on the head. Boom! With a muffled sound, both Chi Tian and Yuan Yellen were frightened. It must be very painful. In the future, you must never provoke Hong. If you cause yourself to be killed, you will be in trouble. Kishin stretched out his hand to hold his eyes, wishing he hadn't seen the scene just now. Obito revealed a very painful expression, covering his head and squatting on the ground. There was still a lot of disdain in his eyes. If we can't get out this time because of you, then you're really doomed. This time is to give you a warning, if there is another time, you will definitely die. Kurenai Yuhi rubbed her fists, looked at Obito and said domineeringly. Although Obito didn't speak, he didn't deny it either. Okay, Red, that's it, Obito will definitely have a long memory. Yuan Yellen came to Yu Hahong, looked at Obito with a smile while pulling her arms. Kurenai Yuhi nodded, indicating that he was not fighting Obito. After Obito heard Hirano Rin's voice, he was so excited that he stood up quickly like a child, and at the same time showed his own smiling face. Lin, I promise you that I will never be late again in the future. Obito looked at Hirano Lin as if he was a different person. Look at this as love. Oh, I'll go. This thing is like this. It seems that his weakness is Lin. No, I already knew that. But I've never seen his face before. It's a little cute for no reason. Chi Tian held his hair, and then thought silently in his heart. The five people finally came together at this time. The next thing they have to do is to go to the back mountain, and then go out from the place they found yesterday. As long as these things are done, then one thing is half done. It's not too late, let's hurry up and start. The longer the time drags on, the worse it will be for us. Kishin looked at the sun above his head, then looked at them and said. Everyone nodded, and everyone finished eating the food in their hands. Pick up the equipment and walk towards the back mountain. A trip that feels very interesting has officially begun. Everyone doesn't know what will happen next, but they are still very happy and yearn for this kind of life very much. Okay, this is here, we are going to start from here. It should be no problem to turn over here. Chi Tian stood under the guardrail and looked at them. Everyone looked at the 2-meter-high guardrail, and nodded after a while. I really want to not have much confidence in my current strength. And this is the first time I have seen such a high guardrail. Isn't that a little too high? Isn't there a lower one? It would be so much easier that way. Asma asked very curiously. Kishin was a little angry. Watching Asma directly gave him a headshot. Such a simple matter, do you think the two of us don't know? When we came to check out yesterday, we saw a lot of places. All of them were 2 meters high. You think I don't want to find a lower one? Sakadin watched Asma rubbing his hands. Asma nodded hastily. Everyone smiled at this moment, and then they began to prepare to climb over the 2-meter-high guardrail. Just turn over the world outside here and they can see it. To be precise, they are still inside Konoha now. Now is the time of war, and you must hide your origin after you go out. Otherwise, it is really possible to cause a fatal disaster. At that time, there is no way to protect yourself. I hope you can remember what I said. There are only good things for you and no bad things. Kishin watched them climb over the guardrail one by one, and said these words to them carefully. What they said was indeed quite reasonable, and they didn't know whether the stranger was an enemy or not. If the enemy knew that they were from Muya village, they would definitely kill them. Although Kishin is very strong now, there is no way to guarantee the safety of their lives under such circumstances. If you want to survive, you must hide your origin. We all know, don't worry. None of us are fools. We all know this kind of thing. Come here quickly, you are the last one left. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin and said with a smile. Kishin nodded, and then lightly flew over the 2-meter-high fence in an instant, and then landed on the ground smoothly. The eyes of the four of them are very surprised now. Obviously the ages are the same, but the gap is so big. Okay, let's go. What are you looking at? Why do you feel that the way you look at me is different from before? Kishin picked up his backpack, then looked at them and asked curiously. What else can it be, if your strength is not so high? A few of us wouldn't look at it that way. They are all the same age, but why is the gap so big? Yu Hahong felt very unconvinced, but the facts were right in front of them. Kishin didn't say much, and it's hard to explain this matter. Just let them guess. Go your own way and let others say what they want. Okay, let's hurry up. This place is not too safe now. Walk a little further to avoid being seen by others. After the words fell, everyone raised their feet and walked forward again. Everyone is in a very good mood now. After all, they have left their hometown where they have lived for several years. No one knows what they are doing except their own family members. It's more interesting to go with a few people. Chi Tian walked on the road and looked at his partner beside him, instantly feeling that this world is nothing more than this. With friends, no matter how difficult the difficulties are, we can break through. It's such a wonderful feeling. I just came to this world, and I will be able to have such a few partners soon. Although there is one who has not really dealt with him yet. But I believe this time there will definitely be a good result. Kishin is still very confident in this aspect of making friends. Although Obito is usually playful, he is also very serious about his friends. Treat friends really well. Sake Tien is still very clear about this. I feel really happy to be out with a few of you. I really hope we can stay together forever. At that time, we can also walk out of the house without worry. Chi Tian suddenly said to several of them while walking on the road. Why did you say such a thing suddenly? After hearing it, there will still be some meaning. It always feels like we're going to separate. Ha ha. Asma came to Chi Tian's side, looking at him with watery eyes. After showing his strength last time, Asma completely regarded Kishin as his big brother. And this strength is also very prominent among them. I really don't understand you guys. Sometimes what you say is inexplicable. Ignore you, let's go first. You two should stay here well. Yu Hihong pulled Yi Yelin to speed up her pace and walked forward. Kishin watched, the veins on his forehead bulging slightly. Asma, get out, send you a free plane ticket. As soon as the voice fell, bang. There was a muffled sound. Brother Tien, I was wrong. A voice crossed the sky. Asma successfully ascended to the sky, flew forward, and instantly surpassed Kurenai Yuhi and the others. So high, so fast. Yu Hihong and Yuan Yelin put their hands on their foreheads to block the sun and look, and expressed emotion. Qi Tian clapped his hands, snorted and followed. I hate coquettish men the most. Kishin looked at a trace on the sky and sneered. Soon they caught up with the people in front. Asma, let's see if you dare to do this in the future. You know, I really hate boys who act like a baby. If there is another time, it will not be a free plane. Kishin came to Asma, who fell to the ground, and said with a sneer. Asma wiped the blood from her nose, then nodded, understood. Brother Tien. Sake Tien nodded in satisfaction, then swaggered forward with his hands behind his back. Asma got up from the ground as if nothing happened, and followed closely behind. It's like a pig with rough skin and thick flesh. Qi Tian was not too surprised. After all, every child in this world is a rough-skinned and thick-skinned existence. Even falling from the sky can make a hole on the ground, and there is nothing wrong with the body. Take a break, we've been walking for more than an hour at once. No one should see it in this place. We two girls are so tired that we can't stand it anymore. Yu Hihong stood where she was, then looked at the boys and said. Yuan Yelin also nodded at the same time. Qi Tian and the others looked at each other, and then decided to rest here for a while. Just enough to rehydrate. They didn't eat or drink anything along the way. If you don't drink any more water, you may become dehydrated. Then let's rest here. Just checked, it's still very safe. It's just that outside, we have to be careful not only of enemies but also of beasts. Did you all come out with weapons this time? Sake Tien was a little curious. To be on the safe side, he still asked everyone. Only by carrying a weapon in the wild can you fully guarantee your own safety. I've brought them all. Don't worry, we can't forget such an important thing. And the strength of the few of us is not very strong. Of course, we have to rely on weapons to ensure our own safety. Yu Hihong took out a weapon from his backpack, and looked at them very proudly. Kishin nodded, and several people did a better job in this regard. At least the dangers of the wild have not been forgotten. Very good. It seems that you already have the most basic consciousness. I don't know, will our journey this time be very smooth? I really hope you can reach your destination smoothly. Kishin raised his head and looked into the distance, muttering softly. Everyone is very uncertain about this journey. After all, they did it alone. Inevitably there will be some fear. Several people sat together and rested for a long time. It's getting late, let's hurry up and eat. Try to find a place to stay at night. Sakadin picked up his equipment and stood up. Then several people started their journey again. During this journey, I didn't meet a single person. Occasionally meet some small animals and the like. But the two girls are sometimes taken aback. After all, those rabbits like to pop out of the grass suddenly. The sky gradually darkened. It's getting late. This place is very suitable for us to rest. Why don't you just camp here today? Kishin stood there and looked at them. Ren took a look at the environment here, then nodded. It's clearly all in line with their ideas. There are many very dense trees, and there are many trees around. This will also give them some protection from the wind. This is also my first time camping outside, and it feels good. Yuan Yelin put down her backpack, and then looked at the surrounding environment. At the same time, he showed his own smiling face. Obito once again showed his shameless spirit at this time. Lin, don't worry, I promise you will have no problems. I will be the first to rush up when there is danger. Obito came to Yuan Yelin and started his own shameless mode. Yuan Yelin nodded and saw him with a smile on her face. A smile, localized, the sour smell of love. Kishin suddenly realized that among the 5 people, only himself was a single dog. And they are all official CPs. God is really unfair to me. It's also my fault that I didn't take this into consideration when I came out. Kishin was very helpless and could only collect firewood by himself. Finally a bonfire was raised in front of them. The temperature instantly warmed up. Several people also gathered around at the same time, stretching out their hands to roast around the fire. So warm. Yu Hihong sighed comfortably. At this time, Sake Tien took out some fast food from his backpack. All the eyes of several people looked up, and the mouth grows in minutes, expressing some surprise. What, are you all not eating? Sakishin looked at everyone's expressions and asked curiously. The crowd shook their heads. OMG, traveling without food, talent. How many of you are enough? I clearly know that we will definitely go a long way this time. When I came out, I didn't bring any food. Kishin was very helpless, and then took out the contents of the backpack and gave them to a few of them. I only have a few things in total, and everyone is very fair. You should plan it yourself. Anyway, it will be gone after eating. Chi Tien sat on the ground, and then saw a few of them. Looking at the food in their hands, everyone had smiles on their faces. Thank you, thank God. Yu Hihong, Yi Yelin and Asma thanked each other. Seeing that Obito didn't thank him, Yuan Yelin slapped him on the head unceremoniously. Obito, thank you. Yuan Yelin said with a trace of anger. Although Obito was very unconvinced, his eyes were fixed on Sakishin all the time. Kishin also looked at him with great interest, and kept chewing food in his mouth. Thanks. Obito looked at Yuan Yelin, and then reluctantly thanked her. You're welcome. Sakiden looked at Obito with a smile on his face. Yuan Yelin also secretly laughed beside her. Several people formed a circle, and in the middle was the Wangwang bonfire, illuminating everyone's faces. I don't know if we can reach our destination smoothly this time. I have always been very uneasy in my heart. I always feel that there is some danger waiting for us. It's possible that I feel that this is wrong, and you don't need to take it to heart. But for the sake of safety, be careful around you. Don't make any mistakes. Chi Tien looked at them and expressed his inner thoughts. Everyone nodded. This was the first time they came out alone, and they would be more or less nervous. Moreover, the strength of the three of them is not very strong. If there is any danger, the main combat power among the four is still Chi Tien. Don't worry, auspicious people have their own appearance, and we will be safe and sound. Yu Hihong ate the food in her hand, as if she had put the danger out of the way. After seeing the reactions of several of them, Chi Tien finally just nodded slightly. But his heart has always been very disturbed, and he has been feeling the situation around him. No sign of trouble could escape his eyes. Qianshan, now that you are so powerful, shouldn't you also consider graduating early? After all, there is nothing to learn in school. Yuan Yelin looked at Sake Tien with great interest. Sake Tien was taken aback. I haven't thought about this either. And I don't think I can graduate early with my current strength. Let's take a look after school starts. Maybe during the holiday period, you can improve your strength. At that time, I will definitely graduate early without any pressure. Sake Tien smiled, very Versailles. Except for Obito, the three nodded their heads one after another. If they had the same strength now, they would have applied for graduation long ago. Obito looked at Sakiden, still a little disdainful, but very contemptuous. HMPH, just blow it up. Your strength is even less than 1/10 of Kakashi's. Boom. As soon as the words fell, Yuan Yelin punched Obito on the head. Will you die if you don't speak? I really don't understand you. Yuan Yelin rubbed her fists, staring at Obito. Obito was aggrieved, but did not refute, and kept covering his head with his hands. It's okay, I listened to what Obito said. Kakashi is indeed very good, and I will work hard for him. Sooner or later, I will definitely be able to surpass him. Sake Tenpi smiled and looked at Obito without smiling. Obito didn't answer, and glanced at Yuan Yelin, afraid that he would be beaten again if he spoke. Compare me and Kakashi. My chakra is many times that of Kakashi. Obito, sooner or later, I will definitely clean you up. What danger is encountered this time, I will try to let you play first. Kishin looked at Obito, and began to make calculations in his heart. Everyone returned to calm after the incident just now. The forest at night is very quiet. The current season is very cold, and most animals have entered hibernation. It's really difficult to eat some game at this time. It's a bit embarrassing for us to choose this time to come out. Chi Tian looked at the bonfire, his eyes sparkled a little. We came out in a hurry this time. There is no way to make a good plan. Let's do it this time. If you have a chance in the future, make a plan. That would be so much more perfect. Yu Hihong picked up a small wooden stick and put it into the fire, looked at the raging flames, and smiled. Sakita nodded. This time they were indeed unprepared. After all, it was an instant trip. In the future, if there is a chance, we must come out in summer. The forest at that time must be more beautiful than it is now. At that time, we will be able to enjoy the scenery well. Maybe in this, every place is a beautiful scenery. Yuan Yelin held her head with her hands, and she had already begun to imagine that kind of scene in her mind. Others also imagined the picture of Sha Tian at this time. Although there is still a period of time, they are indeed very yearning. Okay, let's finish our meal, hurry up and rest. Tomorrow we have to hurry. Try to reach the destination earlier. Chi Tian stood up and patted the dirt on his body. Everyone nodded, and then they all took out the quilts they brought. Kishin looked at the equipment they brought and smiled. The equipment is quite complete, and they all have some experience. I'm on duty, you rest first. After finishing speaking, Chi Tian came to a nearby big tree and began to inspect. The others also put their quilts on the ground and lay down around the campfire. The quilt is covered on the body, and it is indeed a lot more comfortable. It didn't take long before they could no longer feel the cold. Hey guys, how do they put the bedding in their backpacks that are so small? Kishin stood on the big tree, looked at his partner on the ground, and smiled. The moon in the sky is moving slowly, and the stars are all over the sky. It seems that the weather will be fine tomorrow. It's really good news for now. I don't know what the destination looks like now. I hope it will not be lower than my expectation. Kishin stood on the big tree and looked up at the sky, thinking again in his heart. Coming to this world, this is also the first time he has stepped out of the house and outside. I really don't want to be different from what I imagined. Chapter 51. I'm so sleepy, let's take a rest. It seems that there should be no problem at night. The few of them slept soundly. It seems that they are very relieved of me. Chi Tian looked down at the few people below, and after making sure there were no problems, he closed his eyes. Originally, I planned to take a short rest, but when I opened my eyes again, I found that the sun had come out. I actually slept all night. It's really too sleepy. Kishin felt the light brought to him by his eyes, and opened his sleepy eyes. But then, his spirits reached a good level again. 1 2 3 4. That's right, I was really sleepy last night. I fell asleep accidentally. After carefully observing the other people below, I found that there were no fewer people. Chi Tian came to the ground from the big tree, stretched his body, and instantly felt that he slept very comfortably last night. And I didn't hear any sound, nor did I feel any coldness. It's getting late now, it's time to get them up. Chi Tian came around them and simply hummed. Everyone is up. Shouted loudly. In a word, all 4 people were awakened by the shock. Chi Tian looked at his results and was still very satisfied. Everyone wake up, it's getting late, let's hurry up. After finishing speaking, Kishin came to the side very relieved and began to wash his face. The other 4 also hesitated for a while, and slowly opened their eyes. Very sleepy, and it's really cold outside. Yu Hihong got into the bed again, and after feeling the temperature inside the bed, she smiled. It is also a girl, but Yuan Yelin is different. Yuan Yelin rubbed her eyes and didn't say much. She got out of the bed, folded the quilt and put it in her backpack. He also came to the side and began to wash his face. Morning, Lin. Chi Tian looked at Yuan Yelin who came to her side, and greeted with a smile. Morning. Yuan Yelin smiled very politely. After the 2 packed up, they returned to the camp again. Hong, how long are you going to sleep? Don't forget what we are here for. Chi Tian came to knelt down next to Yu Hihong, and looked at her with a smile. No, it's cold outside, I don't want to get up. Yu Hihong said with a coquettish expression on her face. God, Chi couldn't resist this trick. He stretched out his hand to grab the corner of the quilt with a smile, and the whole quilt flew up with force. Ah, rogue, So cold. Yu Hong suddenly felt the siege of the cold, and the whole person shrank into a ball. Kishin threw the quilt directly beside him. Get up quickly, just wait a while. Last night, I didn't cover myself with a quilt. If you don't get up again, I will look good with you. Chi Tian still looked at her with a smile. Kurani Yuhi frowned, staring at Sakadin, and now the anger in his heart could be seen in his eyes. I can't beat and beat, scold and scold, so I can only bear it. Unconvinced, Yu Hong took out a cotton jacket and put it on. Qian Tian, sooner or later I will surpass you. At that time, I will teach you a good lesson. It's also for revenge this time. Yu Hong said angrily in a milky voice. Sakita shrugged, saying it didn't matter. There are too many people who want to teach him a lesson, and most of them don't have this strength. Even if he will improve his strength in the future, he will still not be able to surpass Sakadin. Aren't you two up yet? Sakadin came to Asma and Obito and looked at them. But this time there was no smile on his face. We'll get up right now. You don't need to do it, Brother Tien. Asma crawled out of the bed in a panic, and quickly put on her coat. Obito also puts on his coat when he gets out of bed. Sake Tien looked at the performance of the two and showed a satisfied smile. Killing chickens to warn monkeys really works. In the future, if they are disobedient, I will still do it. Kishin feels that he is really a little genius, his mind is full of IQ. After everyone packed up their things, they came together. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakadin with anger still in his eyes. But Sakadin didn't feel much worried about it. Since everyone has packed up, let's hurry up and set off. Eat breakfast on the way. It also saves a lot of time. Chi Tian looked at each of them, and then took out a pack of small biscuits from his backpack. This is his breakfast this morning. But at this moment, all of them were staring at the biscuits in their hands, and they were still swallowing their saliva. What, don't you have any food? I just gave it to you last night, and I finished it in one night. Looking at the expressions of all of them, Chi Tian seemed to understand the reason. Although the four were worried, they still didn't dare to lie. They all nodded and said nothing else. Seeing the appearance of the four of them, Kishin became angry instantly. But he didn't speak, nor did he appear so obvious. This kind of teammate really can't move, knowing that the food itself is scarce, and they can finish it all at once. You are all cute, I really admire you. This is the last time, and I will never do this again in the future. After all, he took out 4 packs of biscuits from his backpack and gave each of them a pack. Looking at the biscuits in their hands, the faces of the 4 were full of smiles again. Kishin looked at the 4 of them, expressing his helplessness. If it continues like this, sooner or later it will become your own burden. This is the last time. No matter how hungry you are in the future, I will never help you again. Listen to me, this trip is not as simple as we imagined. At any time, you have to think about it. Chi Tian also took great pains, after all, they are a team now. Even if there is a problem with one person, it is impossible for them to abandon it. After hearing the words just now, everyone nodded. They are also very aware that there is no danger of food. Don't worry, there should be a village ahead. After we get there, we will buy some food and put it in our backpack. Then we will be fine. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin with a smile. Sake Tien nodded. Now it seems that this is the only way to do it. Okay, then let's hurry up and hurry. After speaking, the 5 people took the biscuits in their hands and started to move forward. They also kept eating biscuits while walking on the road. This is also what they never feel, the biscuits are very delicious in the mouth. This is really a group of pig teammates. We must let them know the danger of not having food. Then they will cherish the food. Kishin watched the few of them chomping on the biscuits, and once again imagined the future in his mind. The 4 ate up the biscuits, and then surrounded themselves pitifully. There are those very sincere eyes looking at me, just so that I can give them some food. Sakishin shook his head, letting his fantasy dissipate. Now I don't have so much food in my backpack, enough for the 4 of them to eat. The only way is to hurry up and find a place to buy things. No matter what, they should bring money. Don't ask me to pay them when it's time to buy something. My money comes more easily than yours. Chi Tian thought to himself. Of course, none of the 4 of them could hear these words and these thoughts. Time passed slowly, and the sun gradually came to the middle. The hour of noon is approaching. I didn't expect us to walk all morning at once. The destination this time is really far away. Asma stopped suddenly, wiping the sweat from her brow. In winter, they can still sweat. It seems that their amount of exercise is really quite large. Persevere, it feels like we have already gone, almost 2/3 of the distance. It should be there soon. It's strange to say that there is not a single village on this entire road. Sake Tien has some curious look around. A very bad thought came out of my heart. The surrounding environment here is not bad. If you can build a village here, you can say that you don't have to worry about food and drink. But along the way, they didn't see a single person, nor a village. Yeah, it's really weird. Shi Hahong touched her chin and followed suit. Chi Tian thought about it carefully, and his brows began to wrinkle. According to my speculation, there is only one possibility. That means there are bandits around here. When the bandit came out, all 4 of them were startled. After all, none of them had ever seen a real bandit, nor had they dealt with bandits. No, it's impossible. There are beautiful mountains and clear waters here, how could there be bandits? Although Shi Hahong said so, her body was very honest, and her legs had already begun to tremble unconsciously. Yuan Yelin was also a little scared, and looked around very nervously. Don't worry yet, now at least we haven't seen the shadow of bandits. It's pretty safe by comparison. Sakishin looked at them, trying to reassure them. At this time, the atmosphere suddenly rose. I don't know if you still remember, we picked up some dilapidated houses on the way here. There's a lot of cobwebs in there and it's obviously not been lived in for a number of years. Sake Tien touched his chin and asked. The crowd nodded. If it wasn't for something, in such a good place, they wouldn't be able to move away suddenly. There is also a possibility that instead of moving away, they were killed and left empty houses there. On the chin of something, Sakishin played Sherlock Holmes Sakadin. Don't say nothing, once said, everyone was stunned. After all, in this kind of place, as long as bandits come and go, there must be a lot of them. And on this whole road, I didn't see their appearance. Explain that the whole place is owned by bandits. Thinking of this, everyone except Chi Tian shuddered, and their eyes were fixed on the surroundings, paying attention to the wind and grass. Hey, look at how courageous you guys are, why are you all so small? What if those dilapidated houses were left behind by them? Don't think about it carefully, just listen to me here. Chi Tian looked at the 4 people who surrounded him, and was a little confused. Obviously they also have certain strength, but they are afraid of some ordinary bandits. Brother Tien, you may not know. The bandits nowadays are not ordinary. Many of them have certain strength. And you know some ninjutsu. If we encounter bandits, we can only rely on you to win. Asma looked at Kishin and said affectionately. Sakita slapped him away. This look, I can't bear it the most. You all don't have to worry. I am here to assure you that this time you will all return home safe and sound. Even if we encounter bandits, I will definitely guarantee your safety. Even if I can't beat you, I can still get you all back. That way, you can always feel at ease. Chi Tian found a place and sat down, watching them frown slightly. The 4 looked at each other. Although they all knew Sakishin's strength, the things they encountered this time might be different from before. They are not easy to break, so they can only nod their heads in agreement. But the physical reaction still hasn't disappeared, it's just not as obvious as before. I say this, and I wouldn't believe it if I didn't understand who I am. But I have too many secrets in myself. I can guess your reaction. And there are a lot of things that I didn't show. I hope this time I can continue to keep it secret. Seeing the subtle reactions of these people, Kishin smiled softly. Chi Tian was very clear about what they were thinking in their hearts. After all, according to his real age, Kishin is more than 20 years older than them. Wait here, I'll go ahead and see if there are any villages. If there is, let's hurry up and go there to replenish some supplies. Kishin stood up suddenly, and disappeared in place instantly after speaking. The 4 looked at each other, not knowing what to do better. You can only sit in a circle, so that as long as there is something behind everyone, you can immediately find out. You said, can Brother Tien guarantee our safety? Although I know that he hides his strength, bandits are not something ordinary people can deal with. Asma looked at the three people and asked in a low voice. The three shook their heads. Of course there is no way to deal with it. He can defeat us, but it doesn't mean he can defeat bandits. I feel that he is only a little stronger, so he is very proud. When we encounter bandits, we should hurry up and find a way to escape as soon as possible. Obito always finds ways to slander Sakiden no matter what time it is. I don't think that's the case. I've seen Chi Tien's strength. Yuhi Hong immediately interrupted their conversation, and then told them what happened that day. Chi Tien fights the three bandits. Yuhi Hong explained every detail of that battle very clearly. She was also the first to see Chi Tien's model, and she was a little moved at that time. After hearing the whole process of the battle, everyone opened their mouths wide. Is Brother Tien so awesome? Asma suddenly became a little fan, and a seed was growing in her heart. Sake Tien is really good, this time we really may have to rely on him. Yuan Yelin also said the same thing. Obito still expressed his disbelief, feeling that there is such a powerful strength, why should he hide it? So no matter what, Sake Tien is our main combat force this time. Anyway, I feel that there will be nothing wrong with him. We are all partners, there is no reason to doubt each other at this time. Yuhi Hong smiled proudly. Asma and Yi Yelin nodded. Kishin didn't know these words, and he also found a small village not far ahead, but did not go in to check. After returning, Kishin saw 4 people sitting together. I'm back. There's a small village ahead. But I'm not sure if there is a place to sell things inside. And I'm not sure if it's the bandits' lair. Kishin looked at everyone and explained the situation. No matter what the situation is, at least it is good news. We didn't see a single person this way. Instead, we would be a little scared. Kurenai Yuhi hurriedly stood up, looked at Kishin and smiled. Thinking of the previous battle, Kurenai Yuhi will trust Sakiden very much. And both Asma and Yuan Yelin also began to choose to believe. If they can see it with their own eyes, they will definitely be amazed. Seeing the reactions of the 3 of them, Kishin also felt very strange. I obviously went to the front to explore the way, but after I came back, there was such a big change. Not really sure what they were like saying. Kishin doesn't want to know at all now. What worries him most is the bandits that may appear around here. Let's go, it's getting late, let's go and see that village. Maybe it's where we want to be. Kishin looked at the 4 people and said with a smile. Everyone nodded, and all got up and started to move forward. Walking on the road, everyone was a little worried. After all, this place is not that safe. Chi Tian looked around and was more careful than usual. If you encounter bandits, the 4 people behind you can't count on them at all, and you have to fight yourself in the end. I thought about it carefully. In case we encounter bandits, the main purpose of the 4 of you is to protect yourself. I am responsible for most of the enemies, so we will definitely be fine. Of course, if you encounter any danger, I will try my best to help you. Sakita stopped suddenly, then turned to look at them. The crowd nodded. Everyone is very aware of their current situation. If they don't protect themselves, it can only be a burden. And right now, swish swish, figures appeared around them. My good fellow, what are you talking about? It seems that today's luck is bad. Chi Tian looked at the shirtless and strong man around them. The appearance of bandits was indeed very timely. Kishin once suspected that these people had premeditated and had been by their side all the time. Sake Tien. Kurenai Yuhi came to Sake Tien's side, very scared. The remaining 3 people also formed a group. Except for Kishin, this is the first time everyone in Shangxia has encountered bandits, and they obviously don't have any experience. Don't panic, everyone. The reason why we didn't find them is not because they hide very well. It seems that all around here are their eyeliners. As long as you are careful, you will be fine. Chi Tian whispered to them again. After all, this is a real battle, and bandits have no humanity. Most of those who encountered them all died. This time it seems that there are quite a few, and it seems that it will take some time to resolve them. At a glance, more than 20 enemies were all standing around them, holding bright weapons in their hands. It seems that these people want to rob money, but also want human life. Brother, I found 5 children. It seems that they don't have much money with them. A one-eyed bandit spoke to the boss next to him with great respect. It's up to you to say, I'm not blind. Go away from me. This bald man with a very burly body and a tiger tattoo on his upper body is the boss of them. As soon as he finished speaking, he kicked Cyclops to the side. Chi Tian looked at these people and frowned. The number of people is more than 4 times that of them. If you want to deal with it, it is still difficult. After all, behind him are the 5 scum of war. What do you want to do? Kishin didn't wait for the enemy to speak, and walked forward directly. His eyes were fixed on the bald man. Oh, this kid has such a big temper. It's different from what I encountered before. I didn't expect the times to change so quickly. Then tell me what we want to do. The bald man looked at Chi Tian and burst out laughing. In the face of so many enemies, Kishin's approach is indeed very childish. It can be said to be young and frivolous. HMPH, if you guessed correctly, you are going to rob. And if we don't have money, you will kill us all. If we hand over the money, you can't let us live. After much deliberation, there are only 2 paths that are suitable for our current situation. Kishin looked at their explanations with smiles in a calm manner. When the voice fell, everyone was stunned. They also didn't expect that these things could be said from a child's mouth. And it was all said. I didn't expect you, kid, to be so interesting. That's right, you managed to say what I wanted to say. Well, now you only have these 2 choices. The bald man watched Chi Tian playing with the big knife in his hand. It seems that they don't see them at all. Chi Tian looked back at the 4 of them, then nodded. Everyone nodded slightly. They knew this battle was inevitable. If you want to move on, you must deal with these enemies. I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm just not convinced. If someone asks me to do multiple choice questions, I will choose what I want. I'll tell you the answer now, I'll choose the 3rd one. There was a cold light in Kishin's eyes, and he stared closely at the bald man. As soon as these words came out, all the enemies were stunned for a moment, and then burst out laughing. Obviously Sake Tien's words are ridiculous. Boy, it seems that you don't realize the current situation. You, give it to me, get rid of this kid and let you be the 3rd master. The bald man pointed at one of the killers and laughed. Really, I'm going now. Mat was extremely happy, took out his machete, and aimed at Chi Tian. It seems that he has seen the picture of himself being crowned the 3rd master. Death to me, Aoli give. Mat took the weapon and rushed up like crazy. The pace was very rampant, and the relatives did not recognize him. Snort, kill me and daydream. 8 Dunjia, 1 door, open. With a chuckle, he immediately opened the first of the 8 doors, and his body instantly emitted some breath. Mat rushed over. Chi Tian held his breath and rushed over in an instant. A black flash flew out instantly, extremely fast. Mate was shocked, and immediately raised the big knife in his hand, intending to chop it off. But the weapon didn't fall for a long time, and the feet stopped. So when people took a closer look, Kishin had already put the knife on his neck. Kill me, you are 2 years too early. Cast a good baby in the next life, and be a good person. After speaking, the hand holding the weapon shook from side to side, and a cross wound appeared on Shamat's neck. Blood spurted. With a bang, Shamat's hands trembled, and the sword fell. He covered his neck with his hands, and wanted to say something, but blood had poured into his trachea, and he couldn't breathe out. Chi Tian looked on coldly, and pushed it along the way, and Shamat fell to the ground in response. Hey, bald head, is this your strength? It's kind of funny. Chi Tian closed his knife and looked at the bald man with a smile. Grass, give it to me. Whoever kills this kid will get a reward of 100 taels, plus the 3rd master. Boy, don't be complacent. The bald man's veins bulged. He looked at Chi Tian and said harsh words. All the bandits looked at each other left and right, and then rushed up like a chicken blood. For money, for status, for the girl, kill. The bandits, who were originally listless, were filled with fighting spirit in an instant, and besieged them. Kishin turned his head and nodded to Yuhihong and the others. Then he dropped his backpack, picked up 2 kunai and rushed forward. The 4 of Yuhihong also took out their weapons to defend themselves, stared at the enemies closely, and prepared for battle. But unexpectedly, all these enemies passed by the 4 of them and ran towards Kishin. Strange, what's going on? Yuan Yellen felt incredible. What else is going on? I must want money and status. After all, you can get these things only by killing Brother Tien. Asma held her booger and smiled with a see-through expression. Once in a century, Asma understood once again. Then shall we help? Sake Tien doesn't know if he can handle it by himself. Yuan Yelin held the weapon in her hand nervously. I don't think we need to make a move. Going is also a delay. It's better to wait here. Yu Hihong pointed to the front, and then let them look. When Qi Tian came to the enemy and opened the second door, his aura instantly increased. When he saw an enemy, he blocked his throat instantly, and in the blink of an eye, 2/3 of the enemy remained. In just a few breaths, more than half of the enemy has been killed or injured. This speed is almost catching up with the human meat harvester. That doesn't work either. You can be a bandit if you are so weak, why are you kidding me? Kishin knew that being a bandit didn't require much strength, as long as he could deter the opponent, not to mention that their usual targets were ordinary people. But it's still fun to be sarcastic. After seeing Kishin's battle, although the remaining bandits wanted to kill Kishin, none of them dared to rush forward. After all, such strength is more than enough to crush them. It seems that I won't show you some color. The bald man was extremely angry. Looking at those subordinates lying in a pool of blood, he wished to tear Qi Tian to pieces. Qi Tian looked at the bald man, and instantly opened the third door. The main event is still to rely on beating the boss. The two faced each other tit for tat, revealing a murderous look. The two rushed to each other in an instant while they were breathing. Then the weapons in their hands began to fight together, and the flames splashed. The little bandit felt that he had no business here, so he turned his attention to the remaining 4 people. Right now, take these 2 girls back and give them to the boss as Mrs. Yajai. At that time, the third family will definitely belong to Lao Su. One of them was shrewd and had already walked over there with a knife. The rest of the people didn't stop, they swarmed around. You know, with bandits, land represents everything. If they are not in charge, then they can only be younger brothers. When something happens, they are often the first to rush forward. They are the ones who take the blame. Boy, I really didn't expect your strength to be so strong. No wonder you were so confident when you spoke just now. I really underestimated you. It's just that facing me, you are still a little weaker. During the fight, the bald man didn't forget to talk too much. Oh, is that really so? Then let me see what strength you have to defeat me. Things are really getting more and more interesting. Qi Tian instantly felt that this trip was really interesting. Although he ran into some troubles, Kishin just wanted to try how many enemies he could deal with his current strength. Keeping the distance apart, both hands start to form mudras. Art fire escape ho fireball. The fingers bend the mouth in front of the mouth, and a very huge fireball protrudes from the mouth instantly. Quickly flew towards the bald man. Not good. The bald man was shocked, picked up the knife and ran to the side. Boom! A loud bang. The place where the bald man was originally was turned into a big pit, and everything inside was scorched. If you didn't dodge just now, you can imagine the consequences. I'm scared to death. The bald man stood up again, and then looked at the very proud Kishin, and his anger was full again. At this moment, I feel that I have been ridiculed. Facing a child who was much younger than him, this was the first time that the bald man was so embarrassed. Death to me. Water escape. Mist hidden technique. The bald man used a very awkward knot seal, and then spit out mist from his mouth, covering their surroundings together. In an instant, Qi Tian's strength dropped a lot. Trache, it seems really strange that an ordinary bandit can use this ninjutsu. Leave one alive and ask what's going on. Qi Tian was a little surprised, but not panicked at all. Compared with Wu Wuqi that time, this level of Wuqi is like a sun. Kaleidoscopic, open. As soon as the words fell, he closed his eyes and opened them, and Kishin's eyes instantly turned into kaleidoscope riding Sharingan. For this level of fog, the kaleidoscope can still see the enemy's location very clearly. But the bald man didn't know these things at all, and he was very proud of standing where he was. Think you have won the battle. As long as you sneak up to Qi Tian's side, you can sneak attack. Boy, you're done. After the bald man finished speaking, he slowly groped towards Qi Tian in the mist. And the weapon in his hand has been raised above his head. Qi Tian smiled lightly, but didn't directly poke it. The distance between the two gradually became closer, and the bald man's smile gradually became brighter. Death to me. With a yell, the weapon was cut off instantly. But in the next second, Chi Tien swung his hand, and the weapon broke. When the bald man was surprised, Chi Tien bent down and punched. Boom! The bald man flew out of the mist and stopped after hitting a big tree. At the same time, a mouthful of blood spurted out from the body. Kishin couldn't believe what kind of rubbish he was facing. It can be solved so simply. Surprised, the fog around him slowly faded away. The first thing Kishin saw was that the other four were fighting with the remaining bandits, but the situation was still optimistic. The four of them did not suffer, and also solved several enemies. This time I can finally rest assured. Now let's figure that out. Kishin turned his head to look at the bald man under the tree, and then walked straight away. Came to his side and kicked him. The bald man raised his head slowly, staring at Chi Tien with one big and one small eyes, and there was blood on the corner of his mouth. Let me ask you, where did you get the water escape you just used? According to normal circumstances, you can't learn this kind of ninjutsu. Chi Tien looked at the bald man with his Sharingan, trying to get him to tell the truth. But I don't have any illusions now. This also made him a little distressed. Hey, don't think that you can do whatever you want if you defeat me. I'm very stubborn. The bald man laughed loudly. Obviously, this man also has backbone. Otherwise, it is impossible to become the boss of these people. Ha, it seems that I think you are too simple. While speaking, Sakita groped around his chest with his hand. Oh, there are about 4 or 5 broken ribs. I didn't expect your life to be so tough. You must know that I used 5% of my strength just now. Kishin looked at the bald man with a smile. The bald man could already feel the pain from his abdomen. The expression gradually became ferocious. Although it was very painful, you didn't say a word wrong. I respect you as a hero. If you tell me about this, I can consider letting you die. Sakita was a little impatient. After all, time waits for no one now, and it's useless to ask for this thing yourself. After all, with Sharingan, you can learn any ninjutsu just by reading it once. What's more, I also have a system, so I don't care about this little water escape. Don't say yes. Kishin was a little angry, and cancelled Bamandungia and Kaleidoscope successively. Then she stood up and stepped on him with her foot. Gradually start pushing harder. Quack. With a crisp sound, one of the bald man's ribs was broken again. What? But this time, he didn't hold back and called out directly. This cry of pain directly attracted the attention of others. And those subordinates no longer fought with the 4 of them. He ran towards the 2 of them desperately. It doesn't matter if you don't tell me about it, I'm just curious anyway. Water escape is of no use to me at all, I just want to have a good time with you. But your reaction made me a little angry. Once I get angry, I will kill you. After finishing speaking, Kishin took out a few kunai from his backpack and threw them out without looking back. Brush brush. Every kunai hits. All the bandits running towards them also fell to the ground. And the fatal wounds are all arteries. Seeing his subordinates fall one by one, the bald man lost his composure. He wanted to stand up, but Sakishin's feet still stepped on him hard. And Sake Tien also had some enjoyment of the moment. I really don't understand. It's just an ordinary water escape. It's so important. You don't even have to take your own life. Chi Tien admired it a little, but these bandits usually do all kinds of evil. This is also the retribution they have. The bald man was lying on the ground, watching his men fall to the ground one by one. There was nothing he could do, and the corners of his eyes gradually shed tears. Iron Man also has tenderness. Although I don't know what kind of relationship there is between them, but this will inevitably make people think wrong. I'll go. I don't think you still have that kind of relationship. It's disgusting too. Kishin felt that the bald man looked like that when he saw his hands. Instantly felt that the relationship between them is very unusual. Then withdrew back. Looking at the soles of his shoes, he frowned. Boy, I'm going to fight with you. When the bald man stood up, he kept his eyes on the corpses under his hands. At the same time, there is a little excitement, and the tongue is also gently licking the lips. It seems that this matter has been hammered. It's disgusting. Do you still want to take advantage of the temperature of the body? That picture is really disgusting. Qi Tian shuddered inadvertently, letting the unpleasant picture in his mind disappear. Looking at the bald man, he also decided not to talk nonsense. Seeing a long knife on the ground, he picked it up instantly. Death to me. Sake Tian took aim and threw it with all his strength. Whoosh! A cry pierced the loneliness of the forest. Before the bald man could take 2 steps, his body moved backwards. Then, he looked down at the gap in his stomach. The weapon that Kishin just threw out pierced his body at once. Penetrated. This power is too terrifying. Yu Hihong covered her mouth in surprise. The other 3 also opened their mouths wide at this time. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. The bald man stretched out his hand, touched the wound tremblingly, and knelt down on his knees. Finally, he fell to the ground, and blood flowed from under his stomach. Qi Tian looked at so many corpses on the ground and felt a little headache. I didn't expect that the first wave of enemies we encountered turned out to be these bandits. I'm afraid there will be more bad luck in the future. Be careful in the future, everyone. Qi Tian picked out his ears, and then returned to the front of the few of them. At this time, the eyes of the 4 of them all changed a lot. Seeing Sakishin have a little worship, even Obito, who has always been arrogant, also has worship. After all, the strength of the 2 of them is really quite different. It can be described as one heaven and one earth. What's wrong with you? Why do you look at me like this? Is there blood on my face? While speaking, Sake Tian wiped his face with his hands. But after seeing the very clean hands, he expressed great doubts. It's okay, we just have some experience. The battle just now really took our breath away. We've only dealt with 5 or 6 enemies. You've already dealt with the rest of them. Kurenai Yuhi was very excited at the moment, her face flushed slightly when she saw Qi Tian. Kishin was speechless, and it wasn't the first time he had shown his strength. Why so surprised? Brother Tian, you are really awesome. It really is not wrong to follow you. From now on, I will be your loyal fan. If anyone wants to trouble you, I will be the first to go up and beat him up. Asma hurried to Qi Tian's side, and then started his flattering journey. Kishin looked at Asma in front of him, and was even more speechless. Although this kind of colorful flattery is useless, I am still very happy to hear it. You 4, don't hold up here anymore, it's getting late, let's hurry up and hurry. If you have the time to speak just now, why not seize the time and improve your strength? Fortunately, this time, the enemies we encountered were not very strong. We may not be so lucky next time. Qi Tian picked up his backpack from the side, and then spoke to them. Everyone nodded, and there was a smile on their faces. After this battle, the few of them have become much more well-behaved. Even the way he looked at Sakishin changed a lot. This is the powerful strength that can turn everything around. It can even change the opinions of many people. This time there is only one regret. I didn't figure out where the water escape came from. It might have been robbed. If that's the case, that ninja is really weak. If you have illusions, you won't know such disgusting things. If you want to know something, you can't get it at your fingertips. It's a pity. Qi Tian was walking on the road, thinking about what happened just now. Involuntarily sighed. There is also a trace of regret. Ding Wanshu detected that he was lagging behind, so he has already reflected on himself and made a breakthrough. Ding Yu read the account. The level is God level. The sound of the system is like a nail, nailed into Qi Tian's mind word by word. This is Tsukuyomi, God level. Qi Tian stopped, stood where he was, opened his mouth wide, and touched his face with both hands. Until now, he couldn't believe the words he just heard in his head. Touching his cheek, he felt that it was not a dream. This is too awesome. Sure enough, it's better to complain. It's easy to get it. Ha ha ha. Kishin stood there laughing like crazy. The other 4 people didn't understand what was going on. They looked at each other and shook their heads. Sake Tian, are you stupid? Yu Hihong came to Sake Tian with a puzzled look on her face. Sakishin didn't speak, and returned to calm after a few seconds. It's okay, it's okay. I just remembered some fun things. And for this trip, I am also full of special expectations. Let's hurry up and go. After all, walk forward again. The others were also confused when they heard it, but they followed suit after being helpless. Although Kishin has regained his calm on the surface, he is still very happy in his heart. After all, obtaining illusion this time is a very meaningful thing for him. No matter what troubles you encounter in the future, you can solve them easily. My growth rate is too fast. At this rate, it won't be long before I can become a strong generation. A child of 7 or 8 years old is so strong, he should be the first in the whole world. Qi Tian walked on the road, still thinking about the future. And also look forward to the future. Since the 5 people had nothing to eat and drink in their backpacks, they quickened their pace and soon came to the small village ahead. This village is really quite small. You can see his perimeter at a glance. This place is too small, and I don't know if there is anything for sale in it. Yu Hihong stood at the entrance of the village and looked inside, frowning. Who can say for sure? It's better to go inside and have a look. Maybe it will surprise us. Sake Tian stepped forward and said with a smile on his face. Everyone nodded and walked in together. There are very few people living in this village, and most of them are elderly people. Walking all the way, they did not see a young man. It's really strange. There are no young people in this village. Have they all gone out? Yuan Yelin looked around very curiously. The whole village is either old people or children, without any young people. Yeah, it's really weird. Everyone be careful, don't reveal where you come from. When necessary, we must protect our own safety. Qi Tian walked on the street and told them again. The crowd nodded. Outside, not to mention that it is a time of war, if the enemy knows their origins. That would be very bad for them. Most people in this village looked at them with surprised eyes, they were unfamiliar faces after all. And the place is so small that everyone in the village knows each other. This is also the first time that so many faces appeared in their village, a rare spectacle. Why are these people looking at us? Is there anything special about us? Yu Hihong asked curiously. Sakita smiled. What's so strange about this? Judging from their appearance, they should have not seen strangers for a long time. And most of the houses in the village are relatively dilapidated. It can fully prove that they have not been renovated for many years. No one has even been here for many years. Sakishin looked around and whispered. After everyone heard it, they suddenly realized, and they also asked, but they didn't expect their relatives to come to a paradise. Although the scenery is not very beautiful, it is indeed a bit isolated from the outside world. Let's not talk about these things here, let's hurry up and find a place to sell things. Don't worry, some supplies have to hurry up and leave. There is nothing special about this place at first glance, and it deserves our attention. Obito suddenly appeared next to the few of them, and then sullenly. Everyone was taken aback. What are you doing? You scared me to death. Do you know what it means to appear suddenly like this? Yu Hihong frowned a little angrily. What does it mean? Obito scratched his face with his fingers like a fool. It means this. Snapped. As soon as the words fell, there was a crisp sound. Obito held his head in pain for a moment. Kurenai Yuhi looked at him angrily, then rubbed her palm. It's really been a long time. Next time, if I do this again, I will look good to you. Yu Hihong then clapped her hands, as if she had accomplished a very satisfactory thing. Sakadin and Asma who were standing beside swallowed their saliva. There was only one sentence in the hearts of the two of them at this moment. This girl cannot be provoked. Unless you feel that you have lived long enough, if you want to die, go for it. After Yu Hihong was satisfied, she walked forward and came to Yuan Yelin. It's really not easy. As boys, we should also have our own stand. But there is really no way to deal with such a girl. In the future, we can bear it or bear it. Asma came to Obito's side, and whispered to him. Obito didn't say anything, rubbed his head, and then stood up. The 3 boys walked side by side again. 5 people walked on the street for a long time before they found a very small supermarket. From the outside, it seems that there are not many things inside, but they also found out that there is only this one in the whole village. If they don't buy from here, they don't have any food. There is no way now, let's go in. Sakishin shook his head helplessly, then walked in. But when he came in, his eyes lit up, as if he saw something that he couldn't think of. Yu Hihong and the others were also struggling with what could be inside such a small facade. But after seeing that Kishin came out without disappointment, they all walked in one after another. There is also a trace of expectation in my heart. After they came in, they were also very surprised to see what was inside. Although this small shop is not big on the outside, the space inside is unbelievably large. No matter what kind of ingredients, food, and daily necessities, everything is available. Only what you can't think of and nothing you can't buy. This is too amazing. You actually have such a big place. It should be different from what we thought. Yu Hahong stood there and covered her face, expressing her disbelief. Everyone else feels the same way. After all, none of them knew that there could be such a large space inside. And it has everything. It seems that there are heaven and man outside the sky and there are people outside the sky. Let's not underestimate anyone in any place in the future. If you don't do it well, you will be slapped in the face. Qi Tian smiled lightly, and then walked in front of several people. Now their next task is to buy something. Everyone wants to buy what they like, and the rest is essential groceries. After everyone understands, let's start to act, but we must be careful. Come back to this place to gather in an hour. Sake Tian looked at the clock next to him, and then talked to them. Everyone nodded after understanding, then picked up the food bag and walked in. Everyone had a happy smile on their face. This time they also brought a lot of money, so they didn't have to worry about food and drink. This place is really weird, there are no young people. And there is such a luxurious supermarket in such a dilapidated village. It's really too easy to make others suspicious. Sakita observed the surroundings carefully, then rubbed his chin in thought. Most of the people in this supermarket are also middle-aged people. There is not a single young man in the whole village. This is also the weirdest part. Kishin has also been worried about what these young people are doing. Moreover, there are bandits nearby, and the village can still be safe and sound here. It can be concluded that there is indeed something strange. Just be careful, don't make any mistakes. How many people came out? There must still be a few people when they go back. Although I am an orphan, all of them have their own parents. Qi Tian secretly made up his mind that no matter what difficulties he encountered, he would send these partners home safely. The very strong determination gave Kishin a better sense of fighting. I feel full of strength all over my body, and I finally have a goal in my heart. Ding, the bloodline has detected that the host is abnormally excited, and has spontaneously blackened. Ding, Fengdun vacuum sword has grown up, and its level is perfect. After making up your mind, the first voice you hear is the system. After listening to the voice in his head, Kishin was very pleasantly surprised. This is simply to give him strength. After all, I don't know what kind of enemies I will face in the future. The higher the strength, the more secure. It's really cool. Hurry up and go shopping. I'm in a good mood and have a good time shopping. After finishing speaking, Qi Tian happily walked in with the shopping bag in hand. I don't care about the questions I just thought about now. After all, I haven't found myself in trouble yet. I don't have the need to take the initiative to find trouble. 5 people started shopping like crazy in this supermarket. Everything that everyone sees, something they want very much. But this time they didn't have such a big backpack, so they could only choose carefully. All the things I tried to buy were useful, and some people even bought compressed food. Yeah, traveling, the most expensive thing is money. I didn't expect that it would cost me more than 200. It's a big deal to make money after I go back. Anyway, I already know how to make money now. Kishin took the food he had chosen to the entrance settlement and began to settle. Taking the things I bought, I came to the rest area next to me, sitting there watching the pedestrians going back and forth. After nothing happened, I once again thought of the problem of having no young people. It's weird, but it doesn't mean anything. If you just go out to make money, it may be to go to the battlefield. Anything is possible. Qi Tian also thought about going to ask others, but if he really went to the battlefield, the result would be quite embarrassing. Forget it, as long as it doesn't threaten our lives. Whether they are busy or not. If it's really that kind of result, it's a big deal to go shopping. Kishin clenched his fists, as if he had already thought of the worst plan in his mind. Time passed slowly, and the remaining 4 people finally came out with the things they bought. After Kishin saw it, he gradually opened his mouth wide. Everyone has a lot of things in their hands, which is incredible. How many things did you buy? I feel like I have 4 times as much. Don't you know that we are going to lighten the load this time? Kishin was so angry, but in a blink of an eye, he thought of how much they ate, and finally shook his head helplessly. If they are allowed to buy less, they will need to provide it themselves. It's better to let them bring the things they bought, since they are the ones who are tired. Forget it, forget it. Since you bought it, let's do it. But you have to keep your things by yourself. If anyone can't hold it anymore, he doesn't want to take it anymore. That's very easy to say. Just divide those things evenly, and you don't need to take them away after you finish eating. Kishin looked at them and changed his way with a smile. Yu Hihong and the others nodded, and were very happy. Obviously, they are also happy to protect their food. Then let's go out. I always feel that this place is not suitable for staying for a long time. Go out earlier and feel more at ease. Kishin picked up the food he bought and walked towards the entrance. The rest followed suit. The 5 people returned to the dilapidated main street again. Do you know, when I was resting there just now, I thought of many possibilities. The most likely reason why there are no young people here is that they became bandits. I looked, there are no guards here, nor any ninjas. There's no way those young men are going to fight. Kishin came to them and said in a very low voice. While speaking, he also closely observed the pedestrians around him. After hearing this, everyone expressed surprise. If this is the case, then let's hurry up and leave. I was also very curious when I was shopping just now. Why is there such a big supermarket in such a dilapidated village? Yu Hahong showed great nervousness, and kept looking around with her small eyes. Sakita nodded. What are you afraid of? Aren't they just ordinary bandits? At worst, just wipe them all out. Anyway, we are not such weak people. Obito fanned the flames again, feeling like he wouldn't have to fight if there was a battle. Good guy. It's just talk but no practice. Chi Tien looked at Obito, thinking about something. Okay, since Obito said so. Then let's not embarrass him. I'll go find some bandits later, and let Obito go. Don't be ashamed then. Sake Tien seemed to find Obito very interesting. If he thought about reaching that step, maybe he could help him open Sharingan or something. I was just joking. There are no one like you, let's hurry up and leave. Take the soil for a second. The others all laughed, and they all knew very well what kind of person Obito was. Although his strength is very weak, he also pays great attention to emotions. Especially to my friends. Okay, let's stop joking here. Hurry up and get out of here. Give them so much money here, and they don't lose money. Kishin looked up at the large supermarket without a brand. Then he turned around and led the 4 of them towards the entrance. Just as he was approaching the entrance, he suddenly heard some loud noises. And it's not very far from them. Wait a minute, there is a situation. Kishin was very alert, and then let them hide by the side. He exposed one eye and looked ahead. The intersection of the village has been surrounded by many bandits, and they all have weapons in their hands. And start asking every villager. It looks like we can't go. Chi Tien slowly withdrew, and then he wanted to tell them all what he saw. Everyone was silent. After all, they didn't know what to do at this time. Kishin probably knew what was going on, but he didn't expect them to get the news so surprisingly fast. I also killed their boss, and they were talking about who could be the 3rd boss. The 2nd leader must be in their camp, and now he is here to seek revenge from them. But the strange thing is that at that time, all the enemies were clearly eliminated, so who tipped off the news? Don't act, I'm watching. Sakita made a quiet gesture with his hand, then poked his head out again. Watch the situation over there very carefully. This time the number of enemies is very large, and they are much stronger than before, with machetes in their hands. If you fight recklessly, it will definitely not do you any good. You have to think of a way, and it won't work if you keep dragging it here. It seems that this village is also in their hands. Otherwise, it would be impossible for those villagers to see them as if they were enemies. Kishin found that the villagers felt very scared when they saw the bandits. This kind of mentality cannot be faked. Chi Tien understood that they already knew they were here. After all, those villagers are just ordinary people. But they haven't acted, which is so strange. Kishin was curious and slowly withdrew. I am going to discuss the countermeasures with a few of them. After all, my own ideas are not so perfect. What do you think we should do next? And those enemies are very numerous. Sakita frowned slightly. No one spoke, and they didn't know what to do. If you want to leave here safely, one is to escape from other places secretly. And the other way is to confront them head on, and there are only two kinds of results, one is my death, and the other is the death of others. Let's escape from here elsewhere. If it's just you, you'll be fine. The four of us can only hold back next to you. It's not useful at all. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin and said in a low voice. The others also nodded at the same time. 5 people rushed at the same time, but there was only one result. Kishin could have escaped by himself, but for the 4 of them, he would risk his own life. What are you talking about? Although your strength is not that strong, I have never underestimated you, let alone feel that you are holding me back. Sake Tien frowned slightly, and then spoke to them. What I just said is indeed true. He has never thought about it this way, and being strong does not mean that this person is useless. Some people are powerful but they have no brains. Some people are very weak, but he is very smart. It turned out to be like this, let us know. No matter what this time, we will not be separated. Then why don't we leave here to see if there is any other place we can leave? If there is a gap, there is no need to confront them head on. Yuhi Hong thought for a moment, then whispered. Chi Tien nodded. According to the current situation, this is the only best way. Without further ado, 5 people slipped from behind the house to the rear. After seeing that they were already far away from the enemy's position, they reluctantly breathed a sigh of relief. The main thing now is to find the exit. To be on the safe side, they were willing to waste some more time, and the 5 of them stayed together without being separated. It's really strange that a good village can become a place for bandits. No wonder those young people are going to become bandits. Shihahong walking on the road was very angry. In fact, it may be different from what we think, and we can't say anything just because we see it. It would be too bad if it really wasn't the case. Yuan Yelin held Yuhihong's arm and said with a smile. Sakita nodded. That's right, if this place really belongs to bandits, then these villagers won't face the expressions of fear when they see bandits. It seems that there are still many secrets in these places that we don't know. But these things have nothing to do with us. What we need to do now is to hurry up and get out of this ghost place. Sake Tien was looking for a gap around him while talking. Everyone nodded, and then decided to start looking for the exit. After about 20 minutes, they finally found a dog hole at the end of the village. Although not very large, this is the only exit that is not guarded. I just saw a lot of gaps, but there are enemies guarding them, and there is no way to get out from there. I didn't expect that we would leave here. It's really a dark history. Kishin looked at the dog hole in front of him, and then said unwillingly. Others also expressed their reluctance at this time. But things backfired. If they didn't escape from here, then they would go back and fight the enemy to the death. Forget it, for the sake of safety, let's hurry up and start from here. Asma, you come first. After finishing speaking, Chi Tien pulled Asma back, and then prepared to let him get out from here. Brother Tien, this is not very good. It's also the first time I have no experience at all. Asma whimpered, very reluctantly. Drilling a dog hole, what experience do you have? Kishin was a little angry, and then kicked Asma into the dog hole. 1 foot thing, where did so much nonsense come from? Okay, we should go out too. You go first, I'm the rear. In case of enemies appearing, I can deal with them. As long as you can leave here safely first, then I don't have any worries. Chi Tien clapped his hands, then pointed to the dog hole and looked at the others. Everyone nodded, and then went through one by one in order. After looking around and making sure there was no one there, Kishin got down on his stomach and slowly crawled over. After everyone left the entire village, they stood outside and looked at each other and smiled. No one thought that one day it would be so embarrassing. I always feel that I can't swallow this breath. It's obviously their fault, why did we run away? Asma was a little angry, looking at the dog hole that had just turned around. Although their strength is not strong, each of them is very firm in their hearts. Moreover, the other party is also a bandit who does all kinds of evil, and he should be brave enough to wipe them all out. What you said is very easy. If you are not convinced, you can single them out by yourself. I believe it's either you die, or they are going well. Anyway, no matter what happens, they will never suffer. Chi Tian felt a little helpless looking at Asma, and picked his ears with his fingers. As soon as this sentence was said, Asma fell silent for an instant. After all, he also knew that he didn't have this strength at all. Forget it, let them go this time. If I meet again in the future, they will definitely kill them. Even if Asma was exposed, she didn't forget to ridicule her. Everyone smiled softly. This place is not very safe yet. Must get out of here and go to a safe place. Let's go too. Take everything with you. Everyone raised their hands and showed off what they bought. Chi Tian looked at each of them holding food in their hands, and then nodded in satisfaction. If they came out and threw these things in there, that would really be the worst thing. After carefully observing the surroundings to make sure there was no one around, Kishin led them forward. We must be careful in the next journey. Maybe those enemies will catch up again. Such an obvious gap, if you didn't see it just now, doesn't mean you won't see it in the future. Sakatan whispered to them as they walked. Everyone nodded and looked back inadvertently. It's so thrilling. If we hadn't noticed the enemies at the entrance just now, I'm afraid they would have been fighting together by now. This saves a lot of time, and you don't have to worry about your own safety. Shi Hahong suddenly sighed as she walked. I also felt a lot more comfortable. I was really nervous just now, my heart was in my throat. I am afraid that those enemies will find their tracks. If I really fought them just now, although I have no problem, it's hard to say about them. The enemy's strength is not very strong, and the number of people waiting for them is several times that of ours. It saves a lot of things in this way, and it's quite happy. Chi Tian looked at the few partners next to him, thinking to himself. In this way, they didn't stop for a moment, and they stopped to rest after walking a long distance ahead. A few people still couldn't feel at ease at this time, and they were always on guard against their surroundings, very afraid that those enemies would catch up. Hurry up and eat something, we have to hurry after eating. This time the journey is very far away, and we won't be able to walk here when we come back. Sake Tien talked to them while eating. The crowd nodded. Time passed by, and they also ate a little food, at least not so hungry now. Then they started the last part of the journey. Although the destination this time is not a very big place, there are still many things worth visiting. Hopefully not in this season, there are not so many views. Chi Tian was walking on the road, feeling worried all the time. After all, it is winter now, and many times those scenery are not available in winter. After going this time, I couldn't see those scenery, but it was really a pity. Let's hurry up too, let's all run. If you keep going at this speed, you may not be able to arrive until dark. Chi Tian stopped suddenly, then turned to look at them. They looked at each other, then nodded. They also all very much want to get to their destination as quickly as possible. After all, you can find a place to rest when you get there. And it's very inconvenient to have so many things in your hand. Let's go. With an order, everyone shuttled between the big trees with their things. The speed is also very fast, and each of them is a basic skill. There is no need to worry about their power running out. Just when they came near a canyon, they suddenly lost their way. It seems to be lost. As Yuan Yellen, who has been to that place once, she is also a little confused at this time. After all, the time has passed for a long time, and the road has long been forgotten. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.